thinking about showing up and my successes and failures within this framework. So I thought of this idea, of this topic of the video, because of this thread by Christinist, where she talks about this video from Visa that I hadn't bothered to watch before, probably because it's 40 minutes long. And yeah, I watched the video and I liked it. And I liked the whole of it, but it was this part towards the end of the video that just kind of hit. And yeah, I'm going to play the clip.
Like, okay, that might be true, but like, what power do you have as an individual, right? And what are you doing with that power? Like, are you doing what you can to make the space that you are in and around you, but like your own inner space and your own inner, your thoughts, your mind, right? Your beliefs and the interactions that you have with the people around you and the people around you. Like, are you choosing the best people that you can for that you can relate to?
And yeah, this kind of question framed in that way, like, what are you doing? Who are you choosing? Like, what are you doing with your inner space? Kind of with the context of the video before it and kind of my context around right now and yeah, in the past, I don't know, several months, I guess, several years even. Just, yeah, kind of made me, it hit in that way. It made me like a little bit emotional. And it made me write this, what did I do to reserve attention from here above my head? That originally was a very concrete thing. It originally was basically this, right? Kind of with someone's pronoun, with a pronoun here, right? And it kind of reeks a bit of insecurity and gratitude. I was trying to introspect a bit, like, because it hit me, like the feeling hit me, and it got me like, why am I feeling this way, right? So I wanted to introspect a bit, to walk my steps back, my steps back. But yeah, it kind of reeks of insecurity a bit, and also a bit of gratitude, right? I'm both grateful for having someone's attention, but I'm also kind of insecure about it. So I wanted to, think more about that. But then I kind of deleted the possessive because it felt strange. So, and this kind of made me think that I wanted to expand on it, and because I thought it applied more widely to more things about my life, and I started this thread to expand on it, like kind of thinking out loud on Twitter or whatever. And I started out chronologically with also the successes part with this first tweet, right? And yeah, in this tweet I talk about basically how I was a gifted kid and how basically just by showing up to school, to some random school that I was assigned to, where I was taken to, where I didn't have like any choosing, just by showing up, I could, without a lot of effort, get called smart by people, but not only validation by other people, but also like actually learn stuff, and I liked the things that I was learning, right? I felt like I was learning, and I got the feedback that I was actually learning, and I also liked it. People will usually say like stuff like learning this X thing about your language, el sintagma nominal or whatever, or it's useless. You're never going to use the greatest common divisor, or you're never going to use first degree equations in real life. Who cares about what the sternocleidomastoideus, which is kind of here, is? But I don't know, I cared about it. I liked learning about that kind of random shit. And also I did well enough by just showing up. So yeah, that was kind of my first W, I guess. Which, spoiler, eventually becomes an L, but yeah. Then, in the second tweet, I was talking about another second success, which is kind of also talking about it from a place of gratefulness, which are my IRL friends from high school, in the specific case. This is kind of what I was thinking. I used friendships in a wide term, but I meant specifically my high school friends. And it's more about keeping the friends than making them, because I don't remember what the process is to make friends in high school. I forgot. But yeah, I guess kind of, I don't know, based on groups, I don't know. But essentially, yeah, I felt grateful, and And I wanted to say that the way I keep the friendships, right, like this way that has been established of keeping the friendships is kind of showing up, right? There are these kind of routine hangs, and you show up, and that's basically like the sign that you're putting in the effort, right? You're carving up time. It's like opposed to not showing up or to not carving out time. That's kind of the vibe of how showing up works, and how showing up is leads to something successful, I guess, to some successful relationship, if you can call it like that. And then I wanted to talk about another success, which is the most recent success, I guess, and the one that kind of inspired the feelings in the video, right? Which is basically my Twitter account and my online presence lately. This is like, as I said before, I asked myself the question, what did I do to deserve, in this case I'm going to reveal the pronoun, her attention. And the answer that I came out with was just that I show up, right? That was my the only answer that I could come up with to the question, like, what did I do to deserve her attention, right? What was the process that led me to, I don't know, to her mind space or whatever. And it was basically that I just showed up. I've been showing up, and I thought of seeing 2021 visa tweet, for example, and being pleasantly surprised of seeing me in the replies, right? It was this, I think. This is some tweet from 2021 that Visa recently added another one to the thread, and I found myself scrolling and saying, oh shit, I'm there. Like I was there in September 2021, right? Kind of nice. It's like I was showing up. That's nice. So this is basically how I feel like showing up has been successful for me, and kind of what inspired this video. But then I wanted to talk about like why showing up isn't enough, right? And this is tying it into my first tweet of the thread, which is the kid tweet. So basically that I had this bad habit that what would eventually reveal itself as a bad habit, which is basically placing too much value on showing up, right? So showing up to class, I placed a lot of value in it, and also teachers placed a lot of value in it as well, right? Many classes, especially at the beginning of the degree, had like mandatory attendance and stuff like that. And even though the students themselves, you could feel that they didn't give a fuck, and that they would do at the most that they could to just not go to class. I don't know. I did place a lot of value in attending. I thought it was important, but it ended up not mattering a lot because it didn't cut it, right? Not sure if because if it's an engineering degree, so it's like hard, or because the teachers were just shitty, but it didn't cut it. My honest take is that it was a mix of both. There are some subjects that were legitimately hard and difficult, and where the class time was well spent, and it wasn't enough. So you needed to actually put in the work and to do some exercises and to trigger the concepts, to like drill the concepts and stuff like that. But there are also other instances of subjects which were like easy as fuck, or who could have been explained a lot better, or where the teachers were so bad that it was like impossible to gather the motivation to fucking learn because it was just so depressing. Because you don't want to put in the work somewhere where they aren't putting the work, right? It's like, fuck, at least put in some work to explain to me why this is important, right? And they didn't do it, right? And I wanted to now mention another part of showing up where I failed, and it's this student racing team where I was part of. Oops, I wanted to say student racing team here, but okay. Well, you can Google it. If you made it to my video minute 9, you deserve to know. And it was basically this student racing team I was a part of when I was in college, and it was a topic that I object level liked, right? So I like big bikes, I like building stuff physically, like as opposed to like calculating stuff. But I also liked learning this kind of applied engineering that we needed to do sometimes. I guess some engineering that you do that eventually turns out to be a real thing, as opposed to just homework. And I took some positive experiences from this. I miss going to races. I learned a lot of things. I learned how to solder stuff, but I do feel like showing up didn't cut it there too, in my experience in the team as well. So, for example, I saw how much team leaders, first a classmate and then a closer friend, and how some other key members of the team just poured themselves into it, and I never felt like I matched that vibe or that energy level. I don't really know why, but I just never felt like up to task, I guess. And I don't feel like I really had any truly meaningful contribution because, for example, all of those people I'm thinking of could proudly say, yeah, I did X, I did Y, or I did this wide thing that encompasses a lot of things, but I was like kind of project managing, and they would proudly say it. They would probably say that they didn't delegate well enough, I guess, but aside from that, that I don't feel like that. I just feel like I was mostly just showing up. And if I got told I could do X part of the project, I did show up gladly, and I think with a good attitude and stuff like that. And I didn't mind staying late to help with logistics or to help with building something. But I never was the one to think like this project needs this kind of showing up, right? And to finish these thoughts on when showing up isn't enough, in these notes I wrote at the end that my participation in this team was basically showing up, but a spectator mode, kind of, right? And this feeling is kind of fitting not only for my role on the team, I think, but I do have this sense that that's how my life has been for like the past, I don't know, several amount of years, I guess, 5, maybe less, 3, 4, I don't know, something like that. And vivir la vida en modo espectador. It's kind of the sense that I have. And then I thought of a related metaphor, which is to explain like this situation. And I thought of this metaphor showing up to the station, which is something. What station you're in says something, but it's not getting into trains. So basically I wanted to kind of appease my self-hating processes, my bad loops, my regrets, and to recognize that there is something to be said for the station to which you show up to, right? That showing up to a station is something that counts for something, and maybe not congratulate yourself on it, but at least have it in mind. Be mindful of that it happened, right? But because there are a lot of stations and you could have gone to worse stations, but that at the end of the day, it is not getting into any train, right? And if showing up isn't enough, right? Showing up has failed me, as I have explained, then what is enough, right? What is like the next step to showing up? I first thought of this topic. I wasn't truly sure of what to put, so I said something like work hard, right? In some capacity, I was just thinking out loud, show up at your best. But then I remembered something that Visa said at the end of the video. Which is come alive.
One I mentioned in a different video as well. What does the world need most of all? And the world needs people who have come alive, right? Because so you have to come alive. And when you are alive and you are a fluid expression of whatever it is that you believe and whatever it is that you love, then you won't even bother asking questions like, am I happy? Like
and I thought that was a good clip. And that is what I think that I'm missing, right? I think I'm missing this coming alive aspect. And an example of where I'm missing this coming alive aspect is in these, for example, in my IRL friendships. I mentioned them before with gratitude, and it is true, I am grateful for them. And I feel like showing up sustains them. But I feel like the coming alive aspect is missing. And I don't feel like we're a group of people where the vibe is that we're coming alive together, right? I feel like, I don't necessarily mean with this that each of them or each of us isn't like on their own path of coming alive their own way, or that I don't respect their paths. Some are indeed in paths that I wouldn't necessarily call coming alive for me, but I also know that they have their own context and values and that priorities, and I can respect and learn from what they are doing and see where it applies for me and where it doesn't. And I find it helpful to like see what my priorities are and values are based on what they project on me or stuff like that. But and see where the overlap is, right? But I do feel like the overall the vibe is that there are a lot of values that don't overlap, and that the feeling that I get is of kind of tolerance or kind of shrug, right? But I don't get this vibe of curiosity or interest or disposition to learn. I don't know, commonly, right? I think I do learn and I do try to be have this disposition to learn, but I also don't really care about the things that sometimes they most of the time, well, not most, a lot of the time they talk about, right? Or at least at their approaches to that. And yeah, I don't feel curiosity, interest, and disposition to learn from those approaches, but I feel more like imposition, blind hating, this kind of tendencies that I don't really like and I don't care for. And yeah, I don't necessarily want support or being cozy or not. I don't want to be pushed, or I never want to be questioned, or I don't want blind agreement. I do want kind of curiosity. I want inquisitiveness. I want care, and I don't feel like that's the vibe I'm getting. And yeah, then the counterpoint to that is what I said, what I feel successful in here, right? This is kind of the sense that makes me feel successful, and like not successful as in that I have achieved great levels of success, but that my time in here has been well spent. And it's basically that I wouldn't use the past participle as in I have come alive for these kind of off-the-cuff threads like this, or like the the shitposts that I do, or my replies to other people. I don't feel like this is like super coming alive or whatever, but super have come alive. But I do feel like it's at least my way of coming alive, of the gerund, right? The process. It is part of that process. And yeah, in here, teapot, if you want to call it, or yeah, the replies, the stuff I reply to, or the followers that I have and the people to reply to me, I do feel like this inquisitiveness, I do feel this curiosity, I do feel like this kind of sense of interest at least. And yeah, among the noise that there is in Twitter, obviously, I do see some signal, a lot of signal actually, right? I saw the sign and it opened up my eyes, I saw the sign. And yeah, I see a lot, I see stuff. And yeah, to finish the video, I wanted to talk about I wanted to tie this into the trust bankruptcy concept that Visa talks about in his book Introspect. And yeah, in this thread, Christina talks about how you don't have to focus on trying to be happy or less unhappy, but instead focus on cultivating self-respect, right? Quoted from the video. And yeah, I think that Visa talks about it in his book Introspect in chapter 3.4. And yeah, I think that he was pretty right on this, right? Like this concept of the credit and trust bankruptcy is, yeah, I liked it. And it's basically that when you don't trust yourself, when you have a history of breaking promises, not to others necessarily, but to yourself, right? That's where the concept of showing up is useful. Like when you need to lower the promises that you make to this baby steps level, you essentially kind of make showing up the new currency that you're working with, right? And I think that's kind of dope. That's a dope frame for whoever needs it, right? And I have needed it probably, but I think that on some places I think I'm over this, and I want like more stuff, right? More promises or whatever. And yeah, that's essentially all that I wanted to say. And yeah, this is a video from my 100 video series.